Okay, so I turned 49 years old this month.
Happy
and
birthday.
I think, yes, and I think that's the exact number of times we have tried
Yeah,
to get
yeah.
mass transit in southeast Michigan.
That seemed
So-
like a cheap way to get people to send you birthday presents, but yeah, I mean, it's been the sort of problem that in Metro Detroit that has defied solution after solution after solution, decade after decade. This new effort, we don't know enough about it yet.
Yeah.
It's a new funding mechanism that appears designed to close the gaps in service. Because in the current bus system, DDOT and SMART, you have wide swaths of Metro Detroit that aren't covered by bus service. This looks as if it's designed to extend bus service throughout the region, which I think is a good first step with it,
It may
and
be.
something you might be able to sell the voters.
Yeah, well, it's a less ambitious plan than the last one, and I think that
Yeah.
might be
Less
what
costly.
voters were looking for. Voters seemed confused, I think, last time by all of the different things that this was going to do, and they were looking through the plan saying, well, that won't benefit me, that won't benefit me, and saying, I can't support it. I think here, you still have to make the case that this is about making sure that people who need transit,
Right.
public transit, have it, and everybody is not going to get something out of it, but
Right.
you're also not asking for nearly as much.
And that's the key, I think. Address the immediate need first. And the benefit of this plan is if they go to the voters with a county-wide tax, nobody can opt out of that tax.
Right.
So right now under the current SMART system, you got big communities. Detroit opts out of the SMART tax. Livonia, Bloomfield Hills, Clarkston, Plymouth, a lot of communities opt out. So you don't really have a regional transit plan. There's 53 communities not in.
Yeah.
All communities will be in this. Now what they'll need to do is gradually use this millage that the legislature is being asked to approve to replace the SMART tax. So you don't have two different transit tax systems throughout the region, and create a system that meets the immediate need. The immediate need is to get people without transportation to their jobs, to their schools,
Yeah.
to other places they need to
Right.
go.
I mean, I think you're right about this issue of another tax on top of the SMART tax maybe being a reason that people are a little skittish about
Yeah.
this, and they may end up having to put some things in place that
Right.
make it okay for people to back out of the SMART tax and maintain
replace
the
it with
service,
this.
right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, you still need this bigger conversation about transit and what we can do, and the things that other communities have that we don't, that we still wouldn't after this, are things that hold us back, and things like bus rapid transit or rail, being able to get from the airport to different places on easy public transit.
And that
We
should
don't
be
have any
part
of that
this.
stuff.
But there is not yet a mass transit culture in this town.
There isn't.
I mean, it's largely because there hasn't been mass transit. But we don't know if we put all sorts of fancy new bus lines out there and transportation options, whether it'll be enough to get people out of their cars.
Yeah.
So right now, let's go to the immediate need. Let's get those folks who can't get to work, who can't work because they don't have transportation, and take care of them and meet the needs of employers who need those folks to be able to get to jobs.
Yeah. One of the questions in this is also what does this leave the RTA with its really grand plans? I mean,
Yeah.
RTA was, when we passed it, supposed to be the solve for all of these competing issues and conflicts. It was supposed to bring us better transit and more. Is that still the idea, or are we just backing away from that and saying we're going to work with what we have? And RTA is kind of a coordinating council, which we've had forever. We've had transit coordinating.
Well, if you listen to Duggan
committees.
at that press conference the other day, you listen to Evans, it sounded like they backed off that and just want to sort of close the gaps and improve service with what they have now before they go out with the grand plans. Now, the key factor here, one of the key factors, Macomb's out.
Macomb is
not
out.
participating. Mark Hackle, I talked to him the other day, he said, look, SMART serves us well. It connects all of our communities, and all of our communities are participating. Macomb's the only county with 100% participation.
Right.
Now,
The problem
how well
in
will
Macomb
it
is,
cut? Yes.
can you get to other places?
And that's it.
And the truth in this region is that lots of people live in Macomb or Oakland or Wayne, and they work somewhere else. And if you live in Mount Clemens and work in Livonia or work in Southfield, it's really hard to get around. we need people like Mark Hackel actually to think about this much bigger than they do. It's not just about his county. It's not just about the communities in his county. It's about how they interconnect with everyone else. And it's great that he's gotten them to all be in SMART, but we need a regional transit.
But again, that was the promise of SMART, that it would interconnect these counties.
to.
He's got 100% participation. He's
Oakland
on a
and-
little higher ground than Oakland and Wayne that
Yeah.
have major opt-outs. So again, if you can make SMART work as a regional transportation system, close the gaps, put more routes out there, put more buses out there, gradually you may attract middle-class consumers or commuters to use the buses. Right now, they don't use the buses. 90% of the people in this region never get on a bus.